It's tied up 1-1.
Yep.
What's going to happen here on Ohana?
Ohana is one of those maps that Vortix once again feels pretty darn comfortable on. You know, I say this from the perspective as being the EU specialist, I guess, because you know that's my field of expertise. We see, you know, the Ling, Bane, Infesta mid games from Vortix all the time into that Ultralist tech actually normally on this map, but for the most part, yeah, we will end up seeing how Sting is going to actually deal with that.
All right, well, let's take a look at these players up here in the top left. It is our last Terran player, the Korean Hope. It is Sting.
It's so odd that we say now Korean Hope.
I know. It's been a long time, right?
It has indeed. Okay, so spawning it down to the bottom right-hand corner here, tying up the series. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Caronte's Vortix.
I am super excited to see what Sting has planned for this map. You know, he's such an abnormal Terran.
Yes.
He doesn't play standard by any means. I mean, you watch any of his games in any matchup, and it's a little bit different. He has his own interesting timings, and that makes him unpredictable and hard to practice for. You know, most of your practice games will be against a standard set of builds, whereas, you know, he gets to play against the standard builds because that's what most people do, whereas you only get to practice against Sting if you play against Sting.
Yeah, and then if you say, hypothetical situation, Vortix goes home, says to Lucifron, play like Sting. Play some weird kind of, you know, I don't know, just weird build, weird way, weird timings. Then Lucifron does that. He doesn't quite do it just as precise as Sting.
Yeah.
So Vortix will be getting practice, and from that point on, sure, he knows a little bit, but he doesn't get the full extent of that kind of game.
Absolutely, it's true. Well, this is kind of interesting from Sting here. He's making one barracks outside his base, and he's making it at such a time that it's going to be hard to actually figure out what's going on here. That SCV count looks pretty healthy, but, you know, Vortix is being smart. He's gone pool first again.
Yeah, this is... and just for the people that are maybe a little bit more new to StarCraft here, pool first in this matchup is pretty damn rare.
Yeah.
You only really go for it if you're positive and absolutely sure your opponent knows what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, and in fact, he saw that barracks. There's some great scouting by Vortix. But the thing is, with Sting, he's not really going to care that this isn't going to work. This is a late second barracks.
Yeah.
He wants it to work, but it doesn't have to. His strategy doesn't hinge on it. He hasn't lost that much economy.
Yeah, the Zergling's on the way now to keep all of that bunker pressure completely stifled here. Sting will have to retreat for now, so he'll probably end up just heading back home, trying to get himself a command center. But again, there's always that potential, as you hinted to in game number 1, that he can go for extra barracks behind this if he wants to, and make a very, very scary 4 barracks push.
That is so true, and you know, he'll always just continue the double Marine production. That's just something he does. Some people stop after a little bit, make a wall in, and go up to factory, but Sting loves to keep the Marine count high so that he can actually pressure and walk around the map. It's kind of hard to deal with. But, you know, to counter that, Vortix has already gotten his gas. He's going to be going right into speed so that he can stop those Marines.
Yeah, he's going to get that Baneling Nest at a pretty similar time to game number 1, I would think, as well. As for now, he pokes forward, sees a few Marines, sees the barracks landing. Did he actually see that? No, actually he didn't. So he doesn't know that his opponent is walling off to eventually grab himself a command center. So he's still going to play very cautiously and try and get past this early game.
That's right. Now see Sting starting to pressure in the map a little bit. Vortix finally getting to drone back up to where he should be. Still a little bit down, though. You know, it is a little bit annoying for a Zerg to play against a Terran going 2 Rex, even if it does 0 damage.
Now, I want to come to what Vortix actually does on this map normally. I was saying that he plays Ling, Bane, Infesta mid-game, and then transitions onto Ultralists. One of the reasons he does that on this map is because Broodlords, the map is just very open in general. There's not that much architecture for Broodlords to actually exploit. And as such, then from that point on, you find yourself with so much surface area with Ultralisks that you can actually do considerable amounts of damage with that.
I actually love Zergs that are willing to open Ultras and go Broods afterwards. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to see. Only a few do it. Vortix, one of these full package Zergs that can do that. Another one comes to mind, Symbol. Yes. And, you know, it's going to be a beautiful thing to see if we get into that part of the game, how Sting actually deals with a completely different type of army than most Zergs end up using.
But now we have Vortix just spreading that creep at the front of his base, getting that all going and dandy. Baneling Nest on the way. It's more of a, actually this is more of a standard time Baneling Nest in comparison to the ones we were seeing in game number 1, but he's just grabbing some gas as well. So keeping himself nice and steady and sturdy, whilst we have Sting, meanwhile, just moving out to the middle of the map with his normal play in the way in which he actually pressures. And this is really, really annoying to, for the Zerg.
Yeah, but Vortix is reacting very nicely. Speed just finished. He already has a lot of lings, a lot more lings on the way, a couple overlords as well. So he might get out here and surround the group. And if he kills off a sizable group of Marines without losing too much, that is huge for Vortix and will actually give him a nice lead.
It could potentially even go for a counter-attack if he had enough Banelings. The Zerglings are going to move out here. He sees this. Maybe he just got a little indication as those Zerglings were running down with the vision of those Marines.
Well, with about 24 more lings about to hatch, he definitely can catch these Marines. Now, a nice surround going down, not utilizing Micro as much as he can is Sting, and he will end up killing all these Marines. Sting doing as best he can, but not as good as the games previously.
He's actually producing a ton of Zerglings here. He might end up going for that Baneling Bus potential. He's still spreading his creep and getting this going, and there we go. There's the Banelings morphing in. Vortix is wanting to get on the aggressive.
He absolutely is. With 13 Banes on the way, he's going to be able to break through the barracks pretty quickly here. And those Marines, they want those bunkers finished. But will Vortix actually have enough lings to finish him off after breaking through?
17 Banelings morphing in. And if those barracks go down, then a lot of the production here for Sting actually dies off with it. And with that, unless he can actually get out enough Marines to deal with it, it's going to be so difficult from, say, 2 barracks or so. So here come the Banelings. They're going to crash into 2 barracks. Killing those off would be so important here. Maybe even getting that second one, but he just wants to kill off as much as he can. And look at the bunker placement.
Beautifully done with those Banelings, killing off the SCVs, repairing. He does kill off one of the bunkers, but Sting holding tight for now, and he's going to want to re-wall instantly. Start repairing his other barracks, make another barracks if possible as well, because Vortix seems to be a little bit all in right now. 16 more lings on the way.
Yeah, I can't help but feel, I mean, he's getting a few drones behind this, but as the game progresses, Sting is heading more and more ahead in that SCV count. And right now, he's actually looking to move out into the middle of the map here with these Marines as well, trying to put on a little bit of pressure himself. And he's already started his tank production. If he can get siege tech up, any kind of aggression that Vortix would want to do at this point in time will be shut down.
Yeah. Well, out come these Marines once again, and that's a sizable force of Marines right there. In fact, they have +1 attack, so these Lings are not going to stand a chance, this small group. He's going to, I think he's just going to have to force a cancel here. This is bad news for Vortix. He's way down in supply. His drones aren't anywhere near where they should be with 37 against 41 SCVs, and he's stuck on 2 base with very little tech. This is a terrible spot to be in. He has to take some risks and get lucky.
Especially with the double evolution chambers now going down and the lack of the 3rd and 4th gas only on the way just now. So he's pumping a ton of his gas into those upgrades here, which, yes, are great for if the game is going to go long. But if the game does go long, the SCV count right now, along with the mules, is a really, really bad spot for Vortix to be in, actually being down on drones.
Yeah, and look at how cute this is, actually. Sting with all his Marines spread out of that 3rd so that Banelings can't clear it up very well.
So difficult.
The Zerglings will be able to, but still kind of annoying. And look at this. We do have a medevac going into the main. As these Zerglings come up, he may retreat from the 3rd with his Marines.
Yeah, that would be very, very wise to do so. I mean, these Marines are eventually always going to die. It depends on the cost effectiveness of the trade, but they get dropped once again. The Zerglings actually swung back to try and catch the Marines if they were going to go, but he gets a Queen for his troubles. That was a nice snipe there by Sting.
Completely worth a single Marine who lost his life there. And you know what? I love what Vortix is doing. Look, he's making a lot more Lings. He's getting Baneling speed. He's getting that 1-1. He may go on the aggressive again, hoping that there's not going to be enough tanks, or perhaps go for an army crush. And either of those things have the potential of bringing him back into this game.
But if it fails, Artosis, then you're so far down in terms of drone counts. That's such a scary position to be in as well.
Yeah, indeed. If it fails, I think he's just dead at that point. But I love that he's deciding to actually try something that could possibly work.
Wow, Sting is holding Vortix back so well with just that one dropship. Because he killed the Queen, he can't really start focusing down the medevac. And actually, he's not even replenishing. Well, he did replenish the Queen, so it's just hanging out at the back here. Doesn't want to die off once again. And Vortix is actually pinned back so hard.
Yeah, and look at this. Just constant Lings and Banelings being produced. He is going for it. And if Sting can figure this out, all he has to do is sit back in siege mode behind his wall, make another command center, and smile. That is literally it. Now, Vortix is only cleaning this out just to make it look like he wants to take his third base.
Yeah.
I mean, he could afford another hatchery, but really, he needs to go and do something with his army right now, and I think it's going to be an army crush, and I think it's going to work.
It may end up doing so. Only 3 siege tanks here. The 3 medevacs along to actually support, but there's not that many Marines, and thus not that much DPS fully on the ground here. Sting separating those tanks very nicely, but all the Zerglings and the Banelings actually rolling in from a great angle here. They actually will go right past that tank and are going to connect with a ton of those Marines. Vortix cleans it up, and that's a nice position for him to be in.
That was a good move, a very important move. He's now reset the siege tank count. His creep spread is still far out there. He has complete map control. And Sting is not mining from a third base yet. He just started his third command center.
Oh, wow.
And that's after the third base of Vortix. So even though Sting is still a little bit ahead, that was a very important move on the comeback of Vortix.
Well, great decision making there. If he goes for the third base off the back of that, he just kind of ends up losing it again and dies off. But yeah, you're so right. Resetting that siege tank count. I mean, Sting's moving out once again, but he bought himself time to get that third base down. He bought himself time to get the infestation pit down, as well as 2-2 on the way. He's replenishing with Zerglings. So if he wants to go for, technically, the army crush again, I think that Sting would just have to pick up and retreat.
Yeah, Sting shouldn't be attacking again. In fact, that attack he just did was a little bit foolhardy as well. If you're on 2 base and they're on 2 base, you're winning in TVZ. So a little bit foolhardy, a little bit too aggressive here by Sting. And if he goes in again, all it does is give Vortix another chance to catch up.
He's going to go in with the Marines and Lings once again as he actually spreads those Marines really, really nicely. The siege tanks are still alive here. There's not many Lings left over, and Sting will clean it up. So a nice play by Sting, just barely saving that last siege tank.
Yeah, those tanks did a great job against the Banes. If he had lost that last tank, it would have been really nice for Vortix, but he's making more Lings and more Banes, and this army's too small. It should be able to be taken out. Hopefully for Vortix, it doesn't kill the hatchery before then.
Left a few Marines behind here. He's actually had to evacuate the entirety of this third base. Lings and Banelings are on the way here. There's not that many of them, but he kills off that tank instantaneously. It was so low to begin with. Only Marines left over to deal with this, and they will end up getting cleaned up, but Sting is still 30 supply ahead. He's been macroing behind it.
Yeah, he's still got a very scary army, and his medevac count is getting higher and higher and higher. And that is becoming a real issue. Even though there's better upgrades for Vortix in just a second here, the medevacs are going to heal so quickly. And in fact, I love that he's mixing in the infestors, because this is how he's going to have to kill off the units that are being healed so quickly. He's going to have to hold them still and hit them with the Banes.
Yeah, it's going to have great synergy here when going into the engagements. I like what Sting did behind of all of these pushes anyway, though. He went for 2 command centers at the same time. There's really no way Vortix right now can put on some aggression, so why not just go for that more economic stability behind this? Why not try and just eke out that little extra drone count?
So true, Colaris. He's now mining at a full 3-base economy, whereas just now those drones from Vortix are going down. He's going to have to kill another army to really catch back up here. But he's staying just on Ling Bane Infestor, basically. And with only 6 Infestors out, he's going to have to spend a lot on Lings, a lot on Banes. And those aren't long-term units.
Oh, nice fungal there. Catches a lot of those Marines. Second fungal as well, crashing into that. Vortix cleans up the rest of this army. And actually, he's slowly but surely equalizing the supply, but he drops in the main here. How many drones has he killed? He's killed 14 off right now. Sting just everywhere and really, really exploiting Vortix. And he's going to get the spawning pool.
Oh, no. That's the only unit that can be made right now, really. He's got to remake that spawning pool absolutely instantly. This has been a great drop by Sting.
Yeah, he has. I mean, Vortix right now, even in terms of income, is slightly down and out against Sting right now. Spawning pool has begun once again here, but he has to hold with some kind of infestor play, and he does get some nice fungals once again. Ling's actually pinning Sting back here. This is such a low eco strange game, and he could actually get some of these SCVs as well.
That's right. Not using all of his energy quite yet on those infestors, but we do have another drop coming in towards the third base, and this drop at the third base of Vortix could be just so deadly.
Yeah, it could. He's actually doing quite a lot of damage. Kills off one of the queens. He could actually snipe that hatch. It was so low to begin with, and this is going to limit even more of Vortix. He gets a transfuse on it, but will he be able to clean it up in time? He needs to bring back units. He doesn't have enough. The Marines are going to take it down. Vortix right now is in a very, very odd situation.
Yeah, this is very odd. He has 50-something supply. He's basically mining from one base at this point. Only 31 drones against 43 SCVs. There's 3 orbitals out. 3 mules are going to mine almost as much as these 31 drones.
Yeah, they really are. I don't know how Vortix is going to pull himself back in here. Vortix is one of those players that as long as he gets through this early and mid game, finds it so comfortable against Terran in the late. But now, I mean, Sting's style, for all of the compensations Vortix is making for it, is still holding strong and still prevailing.
Well, you know, Sting, he just keeps on this aggression, but he's done so much damage. I want to see him just sit back because these little scrappy fights are the only fights that Vortix can actually win. If Sting sits back, macros up a little bit more, you know, gets 6, 8 siege tanks and goes, then that's really going to be beneficial for him in the next engagement. Yeah,
he's still in that 3-base economy right now. Doesn't have the gases at the 3rd, but it doesn't really matter here at this point with those 2 siege tanks in production as well as those Marines at all at a given time. All he needs to do is spread the Marines, and a few Fungals go down. Not the most amazing in terms of coverage, and the Zerglings will actually be able to clean up a lot of this thanks to the 2-2 that they do have, but you've got to remember that the Terran still has 2-2 as well, and every single trade that Sting goes for here, look how far Sting is ahead in terms of that income, and he's still dropping.
Oh man, that 3rd base, he cannot lose that 3rd base again. Right now, his army is literally 8 Lings and 3 Infestors with no energy. There is not much left for Vortix to actually do this game.
Yeah, it looks really, really bad here for the Zerg as Sting. I mean, Western Wolves have got to be proud of him in his debut tournament, man. He is performing so well here.
And there you go, GG.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. A great play there by Sting. Vortix did a good job too, though. I mean, he's on the ropes.
Yeah,
but
really is.
When Vortix goes on the ropes, he plays even better, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, almost a lot of the Terran series that we see for Vortix, well, against the very, very strong Terrans or someone that does counter his style very heavily in the form of what we're seeing from Sting here, it's difficult for him to go up against. He will drop some maps. He's not down and out just yet, but Sting is looking so strong against Vortix.
He certainly is. Well, let's go ahead and throw it over to our analysis desk. Guys, what do you think?
That was a fantastic game all around, but especially from Sting towards the end there. An interesting point, though, after the start of the game where we actually saw the defense there by Sting.
Well, Sting started with the 2 Rex, but not really doing too much damage. And then there was this point, once again, having 4 barracks, combat shield, moving out, getting in position behind the 3rd base of the Zerg, so he couldn't take a 3rd hatch for a really long time. And also starting to drop with only 1 medevac, keeping Vortix busy, killing some Zerglings, getting some decent trades, killing a few drones, just keeping him busy all the time. So the 3rd base was really long delayed. And this advantage Sting took throughout the whole game, I felt like. We did some really good drops in the... we did see them in the late game. Like 1 in the main base, 1 at the 3rd base. That was just extremely well played by Sting.
There was a good 3-minute period where the drop in the main base was killing Overlords when it was coming out, coming back in, and it was absolutely insane.
Let's take a look at the replay really quickly just to see that medevac in action. We will see he has the Marines spread perfectly at the 3rd base. Meanwhile, up here, dropping, picking off Overlords, moving back down. He's coming in and out, constantly trading with these Marines. Meanwhile, Vortix is stuck on 2 base. He wants to get another hatchery. He needs more production. You can see those Marines constantly going into choke points and causing massive damage.
Now, the one thing I do want to point out a little bit later than this, actually, we're going to be coming into it in just a minute. Vortix has kept up his creep spread throughout this period of the game, and that actually turns out to be really important around about the 14-minute mark. We're going to see Sting come on and siege up on creep, and as he sieges the tanks up, he starts preparing to do his pre-split of the Marines, but Vortix has had so much notice of this attack incoming that before he starts splitting up the Marines close to the 3rd base, or as he sieges the tanks up, Vortix comes in and manages, look at this, the Marines are only just now starting to split, and by then the Banelings are almost on top of them already. There was nothing he could do by this point. This was actually a really nice engagement by Vortix.
Yeah, but we do see the supply is still heavily in favor of Sting.
Yes.
And the 3rd base just started, so even though Vortix did some really nice defense at some points and showing off some really good fights, he was always behind throughout the whole game.
Absolutely.
So
this game was really, really jarring, I think, for Vortix as a player.
Yeah.
What we saw was obviously constant aggression throwing him, and despite him being able to take many, many favorable fights, he wasn't able to get his feet back in. And that, as a Zerg player, when you're in one of these games where you're landing these amazing fungals, crushing Marine Army after Marine Army, you're catching them on creep, it can be especially harmful to your mindset. So hopefully Vortix will be able to deal with that, think about it and say, look, okay, I was behind from early on in that game, won't get too messed up mentally, because otherwise that can really hurt his mentality coming into the next game and into the rest of the series.
No, that's an absolutely great point you put there. Let's see how Vortix chooses to respond with this, guys. Let's throw it over for the next game with Artosis and Kalaris.